So I'm going to ask, and maybe each of you can answer or not answer this, and that is, do you want to share what your compulsion was and how you came to stop?
Sure. Okay, sure. Again, I'm Eileen, and I came into Overeaters Anonymous 40 years ago. So I am what is considered a long timer. Someone who walked in rather unhappy with life, a type A, rather overweight, and I was, the term that we use is 12 steps. Someone invited me, and we are a program not of promotion but of attraction. So someone very nice invited me to go to a meeting, and I went and I thought, wow, this is different. And I've pretty much been here ever since. Good recovery, meaning good weight loss. Working the steps is the key. It's not just about, how we look on the outside, but how we grow as a person on the inside.
So, and is that where really the progress is made, is inner work, spiritual? Would you even call it spiritual work, or is it just inner work?
I would call it spiritual work, yes. Mm-hmm.
Is there one type of person who comes to meetings, or are there does everyone have the same difficulty, or is it like a variety of things that?
So in my own case, I ate compulsively as a child. I ate Hershey's syrup off the counter and raw sugar, and got a paper route so I could get money so I could buy food. And then as I got a little older, learned how to steal food. And so eating has been an issue for me since as early as I can remember. Mm-hmm. When I got older, I learned how to drink, and so alcohol and sugar became sort of my way of coping with life. Mm-hmm. And so in my late 20s, that began to not work for me. I lost 70 or 80 pounds three times on different diets, and I'd always gained the weight back. And I went to AA first because I had a problem with drinking, and someone there mentioned to me that there was this other program. And while I was afraid, I knew that I needed help, so I went there. As soon as I went, I knew I was in the right place. Mm-hmm. And I lost 80 pounds, and I've kept it off for over 35 years.
So, and alcohol really is a product of sugar. Is this kind of linked? Because it's one form of sugar and another form of sugar, right?
For some people it is, yes. I mean, as you say, that your question was, are we varied? I mean, some people are anorexic. They avoid eating altogether. I've heard people in meetings say they want to get their weight down to 0. So there's all kinds of people that come to meetings.
So I guess in the popular literature, some people say that, that eating fills some kind of void, some emptiness that we feel. True, false? What do you think?
I think for me, I didn't recognize that I was trying to fill a void till I actually began to work the steps. I knew I wasn't happy. I knew that my life was out of control, or at least it felt like that when I was, first entered and joined the program. And then a little bit on, I began to actually go a little deeper, and I found out that there was a void I was trying to fill with food, and food isn't going to answer it. It's not going to talk to me.
I would think that, you encounter this constant state of dissatisfaction. You go, I thought that was going to help, and it didn't. But you keep going back to it anyway, right? Because what other answer can you find until you join your group, right?
Well, and the science of the brain tells us that the more you go back to it, the harder it gets to not go back to it. And that's why addiction is progressive. It gets worse, it doesn't get better.
Mm-hmm. Some people say that the 12 steps are a little too God-oriented, too religious. How would you answer that?
Well, in our program, we call a higher power something greater than ourselves that kind of helps us move along the journey of life. Some people call it the group. Some people call it God. Some people call it just higher power. So it's not tied into any religious denomination or orientation.
The principle of surrender is really the important idea, that as long as I think I have to do this myself and I'm incapable of doing it, I keep failing. A lack of power is our problem. We can't achieve what we want to achieve. Most of us don't want to keep on eating the way we've been eating, but we can't stop. And so embracing the group and some sense of spiritual. What it says in our literature is that we're willing to grow along spiritual lines, and every person has the freedom to choose what that means for them. So we have agnostics, we have atheists, we have people of faith, we have people that are figuring this out for themselves, all along the continuum that come to meetings.
Who would you encourage to meet, or if someone is resistant, what do you do to help?
That's a great question. Well, if someone is resistant, they're not ready. We call it hitting bottom. Sometimes you just, and like I said before, we are not a program of promotion. We are a program of attraction. Oh, you look good, or you seem to have a different style about you, or you seem more peaceful. What is it? And then we can invite them. At least that's from my point of view.
So some people come and stay. Some people come and go away for a while and come back. Once you understand the 12 steps and you understand it's a disease, it gets harder to keep practicing your addiction, because you know that there's hope. It's some way you just haven't found it yet. And so most people, even if they come and go have a slip or a relapse, they keep coming back. It's not easy to stop eating compulsively. And so we expect people to have challenges doing that. So it's a compassionate program that invites people to surrender and do the very best they can. And if they keep coming back, they'll find that they get progress.
Have you found that some people look at addiction as a moral failing and need to be educated that addiction really is a disease? Have you encountered that? And if you did, how do we teach the general public that addiction, we can't help ourselves, right?
So the stigma of addiction has not gone away. You know, in some ways, Alcoholics Anonymous is on many movies now, and so people are used to seeing a meeting on the TV. That doesn't mean you want your brother or sister or husband or wife to be an alcoholic. And compulsive eating is about 3 legs down from that. So there's still a stigma to being overweight and a lot of shame. And so the notion that this is something that people bring on themselves is just a false notion, and it's going to take a long time. There are a lot of doctors who don't understand that, and who practice medicine in a way that just says, well, get over it. You know, it's kind of like say no to drugs, say no to the sugar, it'll be okay. It's not an intellectual or a will action. It's a surrender that requires some help.
Also, one thing that I found coming to program, I didn't really understand the underlying reason for my wanting to overeat. But coming in the rooms, there's a piece about it that little by little, you slowly begin to understand that it doesn't matter. You have it, we work through it, we work as a community to help one another, and it becomes a lifelong help, not a hindrance.
So to close, what thoughts would you like to share with me and anyone who's watching?
I think the most important thing is that there is hope for people that struggle with any kind of eating problem, whether it's eating too much or eating too little. Some people just need to go on a diet every once in a while and they lose a little weight and fine. We're not talking about those folks. We're talking about people who repeatedly go on diets and are not successful, repeatedly think that their weight is too high because they're worried or obsessed about weight. Folks who have this compulsion and this obsession. There is help and hope for those folks, and we hope they'll come to our meeting and give us a try.
Right. Also, it's a beautiful part of our program is that the more you work it, you're given promises. You don't regret the past, nor wish to shut the door on it. You tend to look at people and have more compassion. You have a way of looking at life that is uplifting.
I think that one thing that is not obvious, but this is a disease of isolation, that we tend to turn in on ourselves and withdraw. And the more you withdraw, the harder it is to get help, to say, I need help. And so one of the principles of the program, one of our steps, is that you have to give it away to keep it. And so we get out of our isolation by helping others. And so it is a mutual aid society in that way.
Can you clarify the give it away part, because I didn't quite get that?
Sure. One of the principles would be that we have tools of recovery, and one of them happens to be service. So that means that we would have a pamphlet, we would talk to a friend, we would talk to you, we would set up for the meeting, we'd simply, like Tom said, get out of ourselves. We would take the chairs down, put them back. It's all part of recovering, and there's a manageable way to do it.
And we have sponsors who are people that have worked the 12 steps, and we work with other people who are newer. And so we want the hand to always be there for the new person coming through the door.
So let me make sure. It sounds like one of the first steps, or the first step, is to relieve that person of that feeling of isolation, right?
Right, to admit powerlessness, yes, and to believe that there is some power that they get to choose that's going to help them with this.
Any final thoughts?
We deeply appreciate your making time on your show for this.
Thank you.
Thank you for joining us.